Both teams that played in the greatest World Series ever finished in dead last the year before. Not near the bottom. The very bottom of their divisions, losing records, empty seats, written off before the season even ended. The Minnesota Twins. The Atlanta Braves. In the fall of 1990, nobody wanted to watch either one. 1 year later, they met in the World Series and played 7 games so close, so cruel, and so perfect that the people who were there still can't talk about them without their voices breaking. 5 of those 7 games were decided by a single run. 4 of them came down to the final at-bat. And it ended with one man refusing to leave the mound. This is the story of 1991, the series that may be the greatest baseball has ever played. To understand how big it was, you have to understand how far both teams had fallen. The Atlanta Braves have been a national punchline for most of a decade. Last place, thin crowds, a team you flipped past. In 1990 they lost 97 games and finished dead last in their division, the worst record in the National League. The Minnesota Twins had actually won a championship in 1987. Then they slid backward, all the way down, and in 1990 they finished last too. 2 stellar teams. 2 afterthoughts. Nobody circled either of them in the spring. But baseball is the one sport where the gap between worst and first can close in a single summer, and in 1991, for both of them, everything broke right at once. Atlanta's young arms grew up overnight into a rotation that would terrorize the National League for a decade. Minnesota added the missing pieces, leaned on a fireplug center fielder named Kirby Puckett and a rookie second baseman named Chuck Knobloch, and simply stopped losing. America felt it too. As the summer went on, the worst of first Braves became the story of the sport, a city that had ignored baseball suddenly filling the seats, a sea of fans doing the tomahawk chop, a franchise reborn in real time. In Minnesota, the memory of 1987 stirred back to life. 2 fan bases that had given up were dreaming again at the exact same moment. By October, both teams had done the impossible on the same calendar. Each had gone from the basement of its division to the pennant. Worst to first, twice, in the same year, on a collision course with each other. It had never happened before. It has never happened since. 2 last-place teams. 1 World Series. And not a single easy inning left in it. The series opened indoors, in Minnesota, in a domed stadium the Braves swore was the loudest place they'd ever played. Tens of thousands of fans waving white Homer hankies, the roar trapped under the roof like thunder in a jar. You couldn't hear the man next to you. The Twins won the first 2 at home, both tight, both tense. Game 2 turned on a play people in Atlanta still curse. Twins first baseman Kent Herbeck, a bear of a man, appeared to lift Braves runner Ron Gant clean off the base with a tag, and the umpire called him out. The Braves screamed. The call stood. Then the series moved to Atlanta, and everything flipped. Game 3 ran 12 innings before a light-hitting Atlanta second baseman named Mark Lemke won it in the dark. Game 4 ended on Lemke again, sliding home with the winning run in the 9th. Then the Braves buried the Twins in Game 5. For a few days it looked like Atlanta's year. Here is the strangest fact of the whole week: the home team won every single game. All 7. It had never happened in the history of the World Series, and it set up a truth both teams now understood. Whoever was at home would probably win. And Games 6 and 7 were in Minnesota. The Twins just had to get there. Down 3-2, one loss from the end, they came home to that wall of noise for Game 6. And Kirby Puckett decided the season was not going to end that night. Puckett was 5'8" and built like a fire hydrant, and in Game 6 he played the finest game of his life. In the third inning he sprinted to the plexiglass in left center, leapt with his back to the wall, and stole a home run out of the air away from Ron Gant. He drove in a run with a triple. He drove in another. He kept the Twins alive by himself, inning after inning. And in the bottom of the 11th, in a tie game, he stepped in against Charlie Leibrandt and drove a ball into the Minnesota night. Gone. In the broadcast booth, Jack Buck said 6 words that outlived the moment, and we'll see you tomorrow night. The stadium came apart. Grown men cried in the aisles. In the visiting clubhouse, the Braves sat in silence, knowing they'd have to do it all again in 24 hours, on the road, in that noise, with everything they'd built on the line. Tomorrow night was Game 7. And Game 7 belonged to a 36-year-old who had already made up his mind that no one was taking the ball out of his hand. Jack Morris was born in St. Paul, 20 minutes from the stadium. He had signed with his hometown Twins that winter for exactly this, the chance to stand on that mound with everything on the line. Across from him stood John Smoltz, 24 years old, a kid from the Atlanta rotation who had grown up in Michigan idolizing Jack Morris. Student against teacher, for the championship of the world. For 9 innings, neither blinked. 9 full innings. 0 runs. A scoreless Game 7, deep into the night, 2 pitchers refusing to break. Every inning felt heavier than the last. One hanging pitch, one misplayed ball, would end somebody's season, and both men knew it. The crowd stopped sitting down. The Braves' best chance came in the 8th, in a moment people still argue about. Lonnie Smith was on first when Terry Pendleton laced a double into the gap. Smith should have scored standing up. Instead he pulled up near second, deked, many say, by Knobloch and the shortstop pretending to field a grounder, and had to stop at third. To this day, historians disagree on what happened. Some say the Twins tricked him. Some say he simply lost the ball in the lights and the noise. Either way, he did not score. The Braves loaded the bases with nobody out. And Jack Morris pitched his way out of it and gave up nothing. After 9 innings, Twins manager Tom Kelly went to pull him. Morris refused. The two of them went back and forth in the dugout until Kelly finally threw up his hands and said, "Oh hell, it's only a game." Morris walked back out for the 10th. And he set the Braves down again. 10 innings. No runs allowed. On the biggest night of his life. In the bottom of the 10th, Dan Gladden turned a broken bat blooper into a hustle double. A bunt pushed him to third. The Braves walked the bases loaded to set up a play at every base. And then a backup named Gene Larkin lifted a soft fly ball over the drawn-in outfield, and Gladden trotted home. Twins 1. Braves 0. In 10 innings. In Game 7. Jack Morris had thrown a 10-inning shutout in the 7th game of the World Series. Many who saw it call it the single greatest game a pitcher has ever pitched. And here is what makes it hurt: no one will ever be allowed to do it again. The game Morris played has been legislated out of existence. Today a starting pitcher is watched by a pitch count and pulled after 6 innings, sometimes 5. Bullpens are stacked with specialists. $100 million rides on protecting a young arm. No manager alive would send his ace out for a 10th inning of a scoreless Game 7, and if one tried, the whole sport would call him reckless. What Morris did on that mound is now, quietly, against the rules of how baseball is run. Jack Morris walked off that field a World Series MVP and, eventually, a Hall of Famer, but the number that mattered was simpler than any plaque. 10 innings. 0 runs. Game 7. Nobody has matched it since, and the way the game is built now, nobody will. And the men who made that week immortal did not all get to grow old inside the legend. Kirby Puckett, the man who dragged his team to Game 7 with his glove and his bat, lost the sight in one eye a few years later and was forced to retire in his mid-30s, at the height of his powers. He died of a stroke at 45. The series they played was later voted the greatest World Series ever contested, 5 one-run games, for decided on the last swing, 3 that ran into extra innings, and a Game 7 that felt like it might never end. 2 teams that had been the worst in all of baseball 12 months earlier gave the sport a week it has never come close to topping. Maybe that's the part worth keeping. The greatest thing baseball ever made didn't come from a dynasty or a payroll or a machine. It came from 2 last-place teams nobody believed in, and one stubborn man who would not walk off the field until the game was won. So here is the question worth sitting with. In a sport now engineered to never let it happen again, will we ever see another Game 7 like it? Follow for more.